my Mercurial mercenaries. This is a time waster extraordinaire. I have found that life means you have certain priorities, and it is sometimes hard to prioritise this channel the way I'd like to. I watch, probably like you guys do, lots of channels, big channels, and I always have aspirations, but at the end of the day, when all is said and done, at the end of the road, what other cliched stock can we have? This will always be a small channel, but I'm trying to involve you guys because we're like this, small together, we're mercenaries. So what I thought we would do is just have, however long I'm on for now. Now, I'm always building towards the idea of being live. But I like the edit. I like the edit. What I thought I would try is having all my social media, is it all of them? Having some of my social media on the screen at the same time and just speaking to you guys as I'm talking. The subject, my mercenaries. I've watched a lot of videos recently about this subject. They stem from a variety of factors. One of them was an article that came out last year in the Washington Post that said the guitar is dead. And that sparked controversy in some ways, where everyone's saying, no, of course the guitar's not dead. And the latest one is the statement that we are going to talk about today, my mercenaries. Rock is dead. Discuss. So here we have the various social medias, my mercenaries. At the bottom left, we've got the Discord that a Mercurial mercenary set up. Top left, we've got my Mercurial #6 Facebook page. And on the right-hand side, kind of obscured by me here a little bit, is my Twitter thing, right? So what we're going to do, my mercenaries, is we're going to see whether... Obviously, it's not live, because, well, it's live right now, but by the time you see it, it's not live. But we'll just see if anyone's around. So far, I've got Schmootic on board. But I haven't yet told people what the... Well, I've told the Facebook generation. But so far, as you can see, I ain't got a lot, mercenaries. I ain't got a lot. A time waster. My Mercurial mercenaries of old know how these time wasters can go. Everything here is currently on screen. Although I can see that what I'm actually typing isn't on screen, but there you go. That's the miracle that is having a border that goes around the edge, my mercenaries. And reasons for it, I've told you before. It's so I can have things a little bit smaller to make up for the lack of resolution, because I'm not a big channel. You hear big channels saying, oh, blimey, we've got so much equipment here that enables us to... we can live stream with the power of 1,000 suns. I ain't got that, my mercenaries. Rock is dead. Where do we start? Well, we can have a little... Is that right? Yeah, we can do that. Oh, that was me earlier. Oh, I'm wearing the same t-shirt, my mercenaries. Now, I'll tell you what. That was a mocha. I like calling them mochas. A mocha that I had earlier to drink. And it was bucket-sized. It looks there like it's not that big, like I'm just using perspective in the photograph, but that cup was like that. It was £3 something though, £3.99, something like that. It was quite a lot. Hang on. We ain't got a lot going on here. Tweets. You know, right? You know how some of you think I'm not quite paying attention when I'm listening to music, when I'm trying to talk over the top. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We can now relax. No one's out there. No one's listening. So I can just talk, my mercenaries. People say rock is dead. And I gotta say, when I look at the world in general, the people you meet in the street day to day, rock does certainly seem to be dead. Because not only are people not listening to rock, but people aren't listening to things that I've even heard of. And that's quite interesting in itself. It probably means that I might be out of step with the general public. But then this brings me to, I mean, I haven't given this any thought whatsoever, but this perhaps brings me to my very first point, my mercenaries, which is, have I ever been in step with the general public? And do other people who say rock is dead, were they ever in step with the general public? Because, for instance, I now say, this is a beautiful, I think this is a Spanish wine. This has got disaster written all over it, my mercenaries. Always got to lick the bottle. Always got to lick the bottle. Señor de Castillo, vintage 2000. Oh, blimey. It's a 2009 red wine. It's telling me to drink responsibly. I always, well, I didn't drink responsibly during the Ryan Adams video, I've got to say. What were we saying? Yeah, so Schmutik straight away says, Punk's not dead at all. Punk's not dead at all. Punk's not dead at all. All. There you go, my mercenaries. Straight away, Schmutik, Explosive Notes, is straight out there, not discussing the subject at hand. Although, look, Schmutik, this is kind of live. Is punk rock? Well, you know, it's called Bang On. Let's ask him that. He said, to me, rock either hasn't been alive during my life or is alive and well. I'll throw it out there to him. I'll just say, do you consider punk? Do you consider punk to be rock? Now, I'll throw that out there, but let me carry on. So I'm currently saying, right, that I'm finding that it's not only what people are listening to, it's what people's favourite songs are at the moment. And I've never heard of the people they're talking about. And I can look at the top 10, whatever the top 10 is right now, if we Googled it, and I probably wouldn't recognise any of the artists in it. So I kind of feel disconnected in a way. But then when I think back to the era where people were saying that rock was alive and well, back then, in my experience, no one was listening to rock back then either. So whereas perhaps now someone's listening to the Clean Bandits or somebody that I've never heard of, back when I was listening to the albums that were sort of considered to be, you know, big rock albums, back in the era when rock was alive, people back then were listening to, I don't know, New Kids on the Block or something. So I wonder, right, if you had, and this is all off the top of my head, if you had like 10 people, pick 10 random people from an era where rock was considered to be alive and well. And when you listen to, I watch all these channels that you guys listen, you guys watch. I watch all these channels, these mainstream channels. There's Rick, I've forgotten his name, and there's the Glenn Fricker one, and there's been the Circle of Tone one I watched recently. There's lots of different videos that I've been watching that have kind of discussed the general rock is dead thing. If you took 10 people from the era when they say rock was kind of at its, perhaps the last time when it was at its height, which was Metallica's Black Album, so we're talking around like 1990 or so. Nirvana say, never mind, 1990 or so, okay? 10 people at random back then, and 10 people at random today. How many of those? Let's have a time machine. Let's gather them all in the room now. On the left-hand side, we've got 10 people from 1990. On the right-hand side, we've got 10 people from now. How many are listening to rock? You know, pick 10 people from... I remember being into Iron Maiden around that sort of era. I remember when Iron Maiden did their last show with Bruce Dickinson, the Raising Hell thing in the early 90s. Yes, it was the cusp of the death of kind of metal, but of that brought to an end by grunge kind of thing. But that was in the period of time that we're talking about with the Black Album sales, and you know, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, no Prayer for the Dying, all that kind of era. When you could say that Iron Maiden, especially with Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, were at their peak. So let's talk about Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Let's not go. Let's go before. Let's go before Nevermind by Nirvana. Okay. Let's talk about the era when metal was probably at its height, in my opinion. Sort of Master of Puppets and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and then leading up to the Black Album by Metallica. I felt like an outcast back then. I dressed in my leather, I had long hair. I felt like an outcast. None of the people that I had to associate with, whether it be at school or just sort of day to day, listened to rock. Now, my friends, because I hung around with them, you gravitate towards people. All my friends were heavy metal fans. But these 10 people we've just plucked from 1990, how many of them were listening to the Black Album by Metallica? And the 10 we pick at random today, how many of them listening to rock? I would say basically none of them. So, in my little bubble, do I feel that rock's any more dead than it was when I was a teenager? Not really. Schmutik responds to my question, do you consider punk to be rock? He responds with, generally, yes. It depends on strictness of scope we are talking in, but generally speaking, punk is subcategory of rock in same fashion as metal is. That's interesting. So, I think I'm with him on that. See, people say rock is dead. What do we mean by rock? Yeah. What do we mean by rock then? I say, and I'm thinking about this right off the top of my head right now, my mercenaries, I say we're talking about real loud instruments. I mean, God, it's a tricky one, isn't it, my mercenaries? I mean, I've just come up with that at the top of my head, and I think that's not quite right. I don't think that's quite right. Do instruments have to be real to be rock? Would you call the Nine Inch Nails rock? You can have synth rock. I like the idea. Wow, it's a tricky one, isn't it? When we say rock, are we talking like rock and roll with roots in the blues, roots in kind of black music of the early 1900s? Is that what we're talking about? That Elvis then moved on. People say rock is dead. I think these channels that have been talking about rock being dead, I think we're specifically talking about guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. And I think there is the scope to call bands that don't fit that rock. Now, I made a comment. In fact, it's usually Explosive Notes here who I have these kind of arguments with. But I remember I made a comment when I reviewed Jean-Michel Jarre, I think it was, and I said that Equinox and the idea of doing electronic music back in the 70s, it was almost punk rock in spirit. In spirit. And I think he came back at me at the time and said, well, it's not punk rock then, is it? Electronic music isn't punk. A spirit is different to the music. But look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Would they accept a band like Kraftwerk into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Would they? Genuine question. Let me just check something here. Let's just try something. Okay, Google. Has Kraftwerk ever been accepted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Here's what I found.
People are discussing it. Does Kraftwerk? Synthtopia.com. Does Kraftwerk belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That's the question raised by the announcement of this year's... So this is a post from 2016, my mercenaries. Does Kraftwerk... announcement of this year's nominees for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Kraftwerk is nominated, along with nominees that many people may find a lot more rock and roll. Groups like Depeche Mode, ELO, Journey, Pearl Jam, Steppenwolf, The Cars, and Yes. See, so it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because when you think of rock music and you say Depeche Mode, I would say Depeche Mode are pop music. So now we're discussing what's the difference between rock and pop. Is there a difference between rock and pop? Holy crap. It's like you go down a rabbit hole when you even... So we're still discussing Rock is Dead. And we need to determine why people are saying rock is dead. Hang on. Schmootic comes back with rock. Live, loud, needs to have drums and filthy electric guitar. Let's just, before I need to say to him, is there a difference between... I can see no one else isn't... Nothing's going on with my Facebook. No one gives a shit. No one's responding to my tweet. Then again, I have only got 61 followers. I've only got 50 people on my Facebook page. So I can't really win there. Let's just ask Schmootic here. Do you consider 9-inch nails to be rock? Now, I think I do. So, what's the difference then between rock and pop? It becomes a complete and utter minefield, my mercenaries. The king of pop, right? The king of pop was Michael Jackson, right? I mean, the self-proclaimed king of pop, admittedly, right? But king of pop. So then, when I remember the likes of, was it Give It To Me? No, Give In To Me. Was it Give In To Me? Imagine me standing here now with like a fan, like Marilyn Monroe had in the 7-Year Itch, when it sort of blew her skirt up. Ooh! Oh, Christ, I am a massive Marilyn Monroe fan. What was I saying? Yeah, imagine a fan blowing in my face. I'm Michael Jackson now, and my hair's all doing that. I've got the plasters on my fingers. He's got plasters on his fingers, man! He's got a 10-foot cock and balls! Plasters on my fingers, and I'm going, give in to me! And I'm grabbing my crutch. Grabbing my crotch. Give in to me! Give in to me! And Slash is on stage, and he's playing. He's got his top off. He's either sweating, or someone, right before he went on, has just sprayed his chest with water. And he's just got his guitar down round his... Go and get my Les Paul now. He's got his guitar down round by his knees. And he's playing some massive guitar solo. Now, this is from the King of Pop. Is that pop or rock? Beat It. Michael Jackson of Thriller. When Eddie Van Halen launches into that guitar solo. Pop or rock? Where the hell is the line? I'll tell you what. I've said this before, and people have disagreed with me. Let me just put. Is anybody out there? Is anybody listening? Is anybody listening? Question mark. I've got nothing, my mercenaries, from my Facebook crowd. Nothing. Nothing from my Twitter crowd. Pardon me, sorry. This video tweet-wise, ain't. I can do ain't. I don't ever say ain't in real life. Ain't going well. This video, tweet-wise, ain't going well. I'm going to give it an exclamation mark. If I was Donald Trump, I might give it more than one exclamation mark. Oh. Well, that's no good. Is it? Where's the comment? Where's the comment? There's the comment! Podrick Floyd. And I still haven't had a proper conversation with how you pronounce Podrick. I'm going with Podrick, but we've had a Podrick. How so? Most of it is shit. You'll find that Mr. Floyd he's blunt, he's brutal. Do you know what? I just watched Batman vs Superman for the first time earlier, after hearing how utterly shit film it is, and it looks like it had like millions and millions and millions of dollars spent on it. And you just think, what the hell's going on, you know? What's happening? What's happening in these people's lives? I'm scrapping around here with 2,197 people who don't watch my videos. 197 of you do. Where's the other 2,000 gone? I used to play the Les Paul on stage, right? And I've had arguments with people backwards and forwards about whether the quality of the music's more important or the look of the band is more important. I think sometimes the look is just as important or more important. And I used to wear my guitar so low, yeah? Not hand solo, so low that the longest strap that Gibson did wasn't long enough. So I used a piece of rope to make the strap longer so that I could have the guitar so low, down around my knees, kind of Slash style, all right? But so just to play it, my arm was already extended as far as it would go. So to do strumming, I had to move the shoulder up and down. That's what it's all about with Mercenaries. Podrick says, how so? Most of it is shit. He's blunt, brutal. Most of it is shit, but that doesn't mean it is dead. Schmutik says, I have to admit, this is to my question, I think, 9 Inch Nails. I have to admit that pretty much only Trent's work I know well is soundtrack for Quake. I was a Doom fan. Doom's maybe the best game of all time. And I wouldn't call that rock. Maybe the menu tune, but the rest, no. Also, there's no guitar in the rest, and I'm not sure if the distorted sound in the menu theme is a guitar. Okay. Wendy Doot says, rock is certainly not dead. That's just crappy journalism. Right, I'll just throw... hang on. Let's think about this. Hang on. Wendy Doot says, rock is certainly not dead. That's just crappy journalism. Right, so let's just see if I can reply. I don't really know what I'm doing here. Can I mention, yes, Wendy do. We'll get back to that. For the moment, what's the difference between pop and rock? Is Beat It by Michael Jackson rock or pop? Podrick, you're live in my next video, mate. You're live in my next video, mate. Why do you think most of it is shit? That is quite important. Are you saying it used to be better when it was alive? No, but okay, he's not saying it's dead. He's not agreeing. Are you saying it used to be better in the... Are you saying it used to be better? Wendy Duke comes back with, I'm not good with defining genres, to be honest. I'd personally say it's pop, but I don't know. That's a fair enough response. I think that's where we're all coming. I think I think that's where I'm coming from too. I just think when they say rock is dead, what do they mean by rock? What do they mean by rock? I've listened to people talking about how Lars was right. Lars was right when he said, when he went against Napster in the early noughties, and that the fact that no one buys music anymore accounts for rock being dead, accounts for the death of rock. And I would agree that the fact that no one buys music anymore is not an inspiring prospect for musicians. It's not an inspiring prospect for me. I genuinely think I've come up with a few albums over the last decade that, going back 20, 30, 40 years, I think some of my music, if I had written it and been around in the late 60s, early 70s, I genuinely think I would have been a big, whatever, rock star or whatever. But, yeah, blow my own trumpet, yeah. But, so I've got 2 points here. I forgot my points. I'm having to look at all these screens at the same time. I'm forgetting what I'm doing, my mercenaries. But I want to say that okay, my 2 points, right? There's so many different points here when it comes to discussing whether Napster had an effect. Look, so people on these recent, mainly guitar-orientated channels, admittedly, but they're big channels, and they've been saying you just have to accept it. I think Eddie Trunk was saying it as well. I've been listening to a lot of Eddie Trunk recently, some American DJ bloke. You have to accept the rock is dead. When you look at the people in the street, when you look amongst your friends, no one's listening to rock. When it comes down to whether that was caused by Napster or not, no one's buying music, right? But I would say that no one's buying any music. Hip-hop, pop, rock, whatever. No one's buying bloody anything. So how are the other music genres supposedly doing okay? What's happening there, my mercenaries? And in the 80s, early 90s, I owned And Justice for All, the Black Album, I think Master of Puppets, and I think the Garage Days Inc. thing by Metallica. All on cassette, recorded off my mates. I never owned a Metallica album until, what was the name of it? The one that everyone hates, St. Anger. Then I bought Death Magnetic, and I bought the film, and I intend to buy more by Metallica. I like Metallica. I'd probably go out and buy a Metallica album on vinyl and give them 20 quid of my money. So I'll make up for the fact that I had like bootleg cassettes and stuff, but that's what we all did in those days. I had racks and racks of cassettes of taped off my mates. That's just the same as not buying music today. I need to put this out there and see what people's opinions are on it. And my other point, which I must come back to, is we're oversaturated, my mercenaries. There is too much music. Discuss. Rock is dead. Rock is dead. Let me just see what's going on here. Sorry, you keep having to see my fat face standing in Trafalgar Square every time I scroll down. Here we go. Rob Wheatley says, Big rock bands still seem to fill huge venues. Music festivals are still massive events. Go to sites like Bandcamp or SoundCloud and you'll see endless amounts. We're going to get to that. Endless amounts of people pushing their music. Maybe it's not rock that's dead, but it's just a bit swamped in amongst the tons of other on-tap free entertainment out there. Music styles usually go in cycles anyway, so maybe even if it seems dead at the moment, chances are it's not dead. It's just resting. I think he's... I mean, he means what he says, but it also sounds like a Monty Python reference. Even Wenger. I don't pronounce people's names. Even Wenger. Okay. To me, it's always been a bit of an alarmist reaction. I remember the conversations cropped up in a major way back in the early aughts when electronic music really hit the mainstream. Today, it's a very different discussion. The market is so oversaturated of hip-hop and R&B these days that the paradigm has shifted completely. To me, most people who argue that rock is dead aren't comfortable with admitting that rock is no longer the default genre of popular music. Right? It isn't the most popular genre anyway. Anymore. Right. Hang on. Well, I will read the rest of that. To me, most people who argue that rock is dead aren't comfortable admitting that rock is no longer the default genre. Wait. Of popular music. Like, this is my point from earlier. So, Evan is saying that rock fans are uncomfortable with admitting the rock is no longer the default most popular form of music. My point is, go back to the biggest sellers of all time in rock. Go back to Back in Black, or scroll forward 10 years to the Black Album. They're all black, aren't they? I'm not sure. You know, when I was listening to Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden, everyone else was listening to Rick Astley, Stock Aitken and Waterman. Wind back in time to the era where Led Zeppelin were huge. You only have to watch Top of the Pops on repeat, my mercenaries, to see what people, the general public, to see what was really popular back then. And in amongst Bowie and Slade and Zeppelin, whatever, was the same dross as we've got today, and the same good that we've got today. I had a conversation recently where I almost caused a conversation to occur when I mentioned Kiss had I think, the biggest single when they did a disco song, and it turned Kiss's audience against them. And then someone wrote, disco was the enemy of rock. But disco was massive. Disco was bigger than rock. Today, hip-hop is bigger than rock. You know, Kanye West or whatever is bigger than rock. And in the 70s, the Bee Gees and disco were bigger than rock. When was the era that that rock was supposed to be the biggest thing? When Elvis, the king of rock and roll, or Jerry Lee Lewis or whatever, but when Elvis was at his prime, in the late 50s, he wasn't popular music. Look at what was actually selling big numbers back then. It wasn't Elvis. When Elvis was selling to the masses, he'd kind of become a musical middle of the road thing. Can rock be middle of the road? Well, there is middle of the road rock, isn't there? Some Bon Jovi type shit. Journey. Does rock have to be dangerous? Evan goes on to say, Generation Z, I'd say Z. I don't know where Evan comes from. I don't know if he's Z or Z. And to a lesser extent, millennials prefer hip-hop, R&B and electronic... Is that electronic dance music? I'm never sure about the things. As their primary genres. They're easier to produce, just as a four-piece rock act was easier to produce than a full jazz band or orchestra was 60, 70 years ago, which leads to proliferation. True. And like in the 60s, think about the most popular band of the 60s, right? I'd say it's the Beatles, right? Now, I would say This is tricky, isn't it? Holy crap. I would say the Beatles were a rock band, but the Beatles were a pop band. I'll take that, a pop band or a rock band. I listen to something like Back for Good. That could be Bon Jovi. A Bon Jovi, a pop band or a rock band. Holy crap, my mercenaries. We'll carry on with Ellen. It doesn't help that half of all rock hits these days are by bands that have been around since the 90s, if not longer, giving top 40s rock the appearance of ageing without a sufficient count of successors. This is an argument that has been brought up by various people. I think most of the mainstream channels that I watched about this Rock is Dead thing have said, who are going to be the next? Who's going to be the next Guns N' Roses? Who's going to be the next Iron Maiden? Who's going to be the next Metallica? And then there's an argument that says, does anybody need to be the next? Were Iron Maiden the next somebody? Or were they the first? What's wrong with being the first every time? Black Sabbath were the first. Nirvana were the first. Like Rob Wheatley said, it's cyclical. When the Arctic Monkeys came along, it's just indie rock, but they were sprightly. I bet you look good on the dance floor, and it was like kind of like the youth of that day were like, fuck yes, we'll have this. Does rock need to be dangerous? I want to put that out there. Does rock need to be dangerous? Let me just carry on with what Evan's saying. For every Greta Van Fleet, I still need to watch those, listen to those, because I think it's Mike G really wants me to listen to those. For every Greta Van Fleet or Portugal the Man, there are 5 or 6 still being churned out bands that are now dinosaurs. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, Radiohead, hell, even the Black Keys. The White Stripes and the Strokes are all going on 20 years. There's a perceived lack of new rock, when in reality rock is flourishing. But most of it lies in the underground, or at least the popular indie scene. Rock isn't dead, I don't think, but it seems that way because you do need to actually look for good, fresh, new rock music. You have to seek it out yourself. It won't just pop up on the radio, at least not as often as it used to. That's probably true. When I think about I agree with the rock. There's always decent. There's always good music out there, and I do get peeved when people say music of the past was better than music of today. Honestly, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, MGMT, Tim Impala are as good or better than Led Zeppelin. I mean, they're more original than Led Zeppelin, for holy shit's sake. Why did Led Zeppelin keep getting held up? Do you know what? When I was young, when I was a teenager, I actually joined a band. I went into a music shop around here when I think I was about 17. And I went to the counter, and there was this cool looking bloke, long hair, leather jacket, at the counter. And he was buying something. And I put my purchase on the counter. Back when you used to buy music, physically buy music, I put it on the counter, and I think it was Led Zeppelin 1. It was the first Led Zeppelin album, one with the blimp on the cover exploding. And he looked at it and went, "Wow, good choice, man." And I said, yeah, it's good. He goes, "You into Zeppelin?" And I went, yeah, cool. And he goes, "Oh, I'm in a band, we're playing Friday night, if you want to come and see us." And I was like, yeah, all right, that sounds good, yeah. And he goes, "I don't suppose you know any guitar players?" And I said, well, I play guitar. And he said, "Really?" He said, "Cool. What sort of guitar have you got?" And I said, "A Les Paul." And he went, "What, a Gibson Les Paul?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Holy shit, do you want to be in the band?" And I said, "Do you not want to hear me play first?" And he went, No. He said, "You look cool." I mean, I looked cool back then. I didn't look like an old fucker like I do now. Yeah, just the Les Paul alone. I lost track of what I was talking about then. What was I talking about? I've forgotten. Here we go. Wendy Doot. So I said, what do they mean by rock? Right. So I said, I think that's where I'm coming from too. I just think that when they say rock is dead, what do they mean by rock? And Wendy Doot says, I think when they, the people saying rock is dead say it, it's just because the older classic rock bands aren't around anymore. Prog rock such as Pink Floyd or Yes, punk like The Clash or Joy Division, what they don't realise is that rock transforms. There was the whole indie rock thing, post-punk revival, garage rock revival. I guess it's a little more fractured now, but there's still tons of bands doing amazing stuff in rock in general. That's true. That's my take on it anyway. Rock doesn't chart on the top 40 anymore either. This is the point, I think. You can't dismiss that factor. I guess that's a factor. Not that the top 40 has ever been too great an indicator. See, it has. It has. The top 40 was always a great indicator of what people were buying. Maybe not anymore, because streaming... We need to talk about streaming, my mercenaries. Rock just isn't in the limelight anymore. It's hip-hop now, but like all genres, rock has stuff hidden everywhere. True. True. Let me just refresh that one. Let me put something out there. What were my points? What were my points? Hang on. I had some points. Points. What do points make, my mercenaries? What do points make, my mercenaries? What do points make, my mercenaries? Does rock have to be dangerous? I wanted to get that out there. I just need to have that. I just need to have that. I just need to have that out there. And I need to have just out there. Is there too much music? Right, they're out there just so I remember that I'm doing it. Right, Vanya Barbosa. Vanya, that's a nice name. I've never heard that name before in my life. Vanya. Vanya Barbosa says, I don't believe it's dead at all, but I do think it just keeps ramifying into multiple subgenres, which makes some people consider it to be dead instead of changing, evolving. We can look at almost every current successful rock band, and it won't be that easy to pinpoint the rock genre it fits into. There. A few videos ago, I made reference to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard being entered into the, I think it was the hard rock heavy metal category of an Australian awards ceremony. And people said, what are they doing in this category? They're not heavy metal. And I was saying, well, yeah, we can spend all day trying to fit bands into slots, but what is wrong with saying King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are heavy metal? Is heavy metal? Holy shit. Is heavy metal a derogatory term, my mercenaries? Is that what we've got to now? I tell you what, because it always was a derogatory term, wasn't it? In my day, right? In my day, in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever, someone said, what sort of music are you into? It was pretty obvious I had long hair and I wore a leather jacket and I sometimes even wore a studded wristband, right? When someone said, what music are you into? Just say I was in a shirt and tie. What music are you into? When I said heavy metal, they looked down on me. They looked down on me. Today, someone asks you what sort of music you're into. You say heavy metal. I don't think you're frowned upon anymore. But I don't think heavy metal is... I think it's pretty much the same in terms of saturation of those 10 people in the room, 10 people on one side and 10 people on the other side. Did we ever come to a resolution on that one? Did more of the 10 in 1990 listen to rock than the 10 today? If I put 10 people in a room, my mercenaries, I guarantee you, today, if I put 10 people in a room, and I'm one of them, I guarantee the other 9 have never heard of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. If I pick the 10 people from 1990, and using Metallica wouldn't be fair, I'd have to pick like more of an underground band from 1990. Who was an underground band from 1990? Holy shit, that's going somewhere, isn't it? Let's say in 1990, I say to the 10 people, who's heard of Mudhoney here? I think 9 of them won't have heard of Mudhoney. So, is rock dead, or is music dead? I mean, music's not dead. People say film's dead, cinema's dead, and then The Avengers comes out and it's like the highest grossing film of all time, and everyone's flocking to the cinemas. So when did cinema die? When did Netflix kill cinema? When did Napster kill music? It feels like music's dead. For a long time we've said the album's dead. And I think the problem is, maybe that's more to the point. We say the album's dead. Well, what's the album if it's not rock music? Pop albums. It's always been pop singles. What's Top of the Pops in the 70s? It's all pop singles. No one remembers a Rick Astley album, but you remember Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down. But rock albums, you remember Dark Side of the Moon, Master of Puppets, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, never mind. Never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. Is it still the death of the album we're talking about? And the fact that over there I've got a box, not sexual, that is absolutely overloaded. There's an indication of what might be a future. Absolutely, I don't even see that because it's probably not in focus, but that is crammed. That box is only supposed to hold 50 albums. But you guys in the bloody disc cover series has emptied me of thousands of quid over there. The Mercenaries. But apparently the album's dead. It's so tricky, my Mercenaries. It's so tricky. No response. Oh, no. No responses to my Twitter tweet. No responses. No response. I just put responses. No responses. Great. My social media presence is just mind-blowing. And what I'll do is I'll put a smiley face, because if you put a smiley face, all your woes are forgiven. A little bit. Doesn't help, I'm getting a little bit drunk as well. Hang on. Vanya Barbosa says, we can look at almost every current successful rock band, and it won't be that easy to pinpoint the rock genre it fits into. Chances are it won't fit into just one. I see that as more of an expansion and transformation of the genre than its death. It's fine. Schmootic. Rock is dead evokes at least two questions in my head. What they mean by dead and what they mean by dead. Rock doesn't have to be dangerous in the sense of people risking. People know you've problems with different languages. Different languages, my Mercenaries. I didn't mean dangerous as in physically dangerous. I meant dangerous as in challenging values and musically experimental, like Rage Against the Machine. Rock doesn't have to be dangerous in the sense of people risking being beaten up to bloody mess when they go to a gig. There is and there isn't too much music. Wendy Duke says, does rock have to be dangerous? No. Is there too much music? Probably. Rock comes in many forms. What do I mean by dangerous? By dangerous, I mean challenging you. Not physically. It's tricky, isn't it, my Mercenaries? It's good. This is quite interesting, apart from the lack of bloody tweets. It's like, just give me one. Just give me one. Oh, great. I had the wrong button pressed. Nick James. There is rock out there. Needs to be looked for. I have younger friends, they point me in the direction. Mostly metal, though. There is rock. No, I know there's rock out there. I know there's not Oric. I know there's rock out there. I love King Giz, but the mainstream, the mainstream is saying that the guitar is dead. Dead. Sales down, I think 33%. I think 33. Where's the percent sign? Is that going to work? Yeah, sales down 33%. And rock is dead. Is rock intrinsically connected to the guitar? Question mark. Good. I didn't realise people were actually responding. And there's another response here which you can't see because let me just go to the display. Hang on. There you go. So Niles replied with. Can you see that? Niles replied with Pink Floyd. Oh, because I wrote "Is anybody out there?" I see. I get it. I don't think I'm not sure that. I'm not sure that you could hold Pink Floyd up as an example of rock currently not being dead, because I think Pink Floyd have been a bit of a. Oh, great! Don't move that around. I just pressed the wrong. I'm on the wrong screen. Hang on. Sorry, my mercenaries. I think Pink Floyd are kind of part of the problem in some respects because vinyl sales, of all things, is skyrocketing. But when you look what people are buying, they're still buying bloody Dark Side of the Moon, my mercenaries. What you need them to be buying is Murder of the Universe by King Gizzard. It is, but they're buying Murder of the Universe. So it is tricky. It is tricky. I think we need to definitely move on to the proliferation of music at the moment, because you can argue that people aren't buying music, which is fine. And I would say that there was certainly a time with cassette tapes and stuff that people then also weren't buying music. Fine. But I think back in the day, you took ownership. People would say to you, what music are you into, Mercurial number 6? And I'd say, and I had to think, how do I answer that? It was easy. It was easy. What music was I into? I was into Iron Maiden, Led Zeppelin, and Aerosmith. Easy. You took ownership. You bought the t-shirts. You bought every album. I remember, because Seventh Son of the Seventh Son was one of the first kind of proper decent albums that I ever bought. And the follow-up album, the excitement leading up to it, I think it was No Prayer for the Dying, but the excitement. And on release day, the excitement. And you'd buy it and you'd read it and you'd experience it and everyone would be experiencing it together. And it was kind of joyous and you took ownership. You owned the band. You owned the band. You enjoyed owning the band. But, you know, even recently, like last year, King Gizzard and Lizard had released 5 albums. It's hard to have... Look, this might be age now, but it's hard to have true excitement when a band are releasing 5 albums. It's certainly an achievement. It's an accomplishment for a band to be able to do that. Absolutely. You know, congratulations to them. And in actual fact, the majority of the music on those albums was really good. Like I say, the majority of the music on those albums was really good. But true excitement... I did a video. I think I was relatively excited for the release of Polygon Dwanaland. And there was a kind of element of relief when they finally released Gumboot Soup at the end of the year. I thought, yes, they did it. 5 albums. But I think when a band are releasing like an album a week. And I know people out there want me to listen to more. They want me to listen to, I think it's the OCs, things like that, bands that are just like churning albums out. I mean, it's not a new thing. There have been bands in the past who've just churned albums out, and I remember there was a time when I was listening to the guy out of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Because of the wine, I've momentarily forgotten his name. John Frusciante. Oh, I've never been able to pronounce his name anyway. Frusciante. I think he was releasing like 4 albums a year, and there was one album in particular, something to do with curtains. I can't remember the name of it now, but something to do with curtains. And fantastic album. But there are people who make a decision and they say, and they say, they say the thing that we're going to do, or the thing that I'm going to do, is I'm going to produce music and I'm going to churn it out. I'm going to throw as much stuff out there as I can. And they say, don't you, if you throw just everything at the walls, eventually something will stick. So if a band releases 10 albums, you know, even if just one of them is an absolute stonker that gets remembered in history, then good on you. And then you get other bands who work and work and work on the same album. And I'm thinking of bands like, who am I thinking of? Bands that work and work and work on an album. I mean, okay, it can go wrong, like Chinese Democracy, but it's just 2 different mindsets. And I've been in that mindset. Bill and I worked on The Only Way Out Is Through for like 5 or 6 years. And it's funny because we worked on The Only Way Out Is Through for 5 or 6 years. We worked on Escapism for like 1 or 2. And both sold equally poorly. So it just goes to show you can't win. If I chuck an album out there, it'll probably do just as well as an album I worked for 10 years on. So I don't think effort is rewarded appropriately. But then Schmootic here would be the first person to tell me that you're not worth anything. You're not owed anything. And as a listener, we've had arguments before where, as a listener, you don't necessarily have to value someone's time. If you hear that someone spent 10 years working on an album and you listen to it, I have a sense of wanting to give it some credit for the amount of effort I know has gone into it. Schmootic, Explosive Notes would just say, no, sod it. If it's shit, it's shit. I don't care he spent 10 years on it. And he's got a point. He's got a point. You look into that's why I enjoy the looking behind the scenes on albums. There's the Making of Pump by Aerosmith, and there's the Some Kind of Monster thing, where I enjoy looking behind the scenes on albums that had a lot of effort put into them. Now, the resulting album is still arguable, but I do enjoy that people still put a lot of effort into music. Is there too much music today? That's the point. And I'm saying, yes, there probably is. Because it was easier back in the day to take ownership of a band and to say, yes. You could have had fewer bands in a certain respect. You know, what music are you into? Someone would say, well, I'm into Guns N' Roses and Metallica. And you'd have shelves of music. I remember, as a teenager, I had a shelf kind of like about kind of like that long, and it had like music, and it would have The Almighty, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, the Wild Hearts, Wolfsbane, but it was contained. And then a few drawers of cassettes, yeah? So, you know, more than sort of, but contained. When you listened, when you had to choose an album to listen to, it was contained, specific, easy to keep abreast of. Today, if someone says, "Can we listen to some music?" I'm like, I have the ability to stream any album that's ever been made. It's like Netflix. If I'm trying to find something to watch, yeah, I can go through for hours just doing this, going through it. Yeah, add that to my list. Yeah, add. I never watch anything. I just add the bloody stuff to my list. Just add it to my list. Add it to my list. When I go through, the music sites at the moment. If I had to play some music now, do you know what I'd do? Go through it, flick through. Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, flick through all the new releases. Yeah, brilliant. What am I actually going to listen to? I'm just going to listen to something I know. I'm just going to listen to an Aha album or an Iron Maiden album. Netflix, scroll through all the millions of new stuff that's out there. What am I actually going to watch? It's going to be Faulty Towers or I'm Alan Partridge. Guaranteed. So, proliferation, I'm talking, isn't it, my mercenaries? Proliferation of music. I found some great stuff. The best album of this year is still Little Dark Age by MGMT. I've loved King Gizzard and Lizard. And when they say rock is dead, when you're in a venue where you've got 4,000 people just moshing to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, you try telling those people that rock is dead. But then you hear...sales of guitars falling. Is the guitar anything that anyone wants to play anymore? You can see what you can get from not having any musical ability at all. But then that's always been there since the 90s. That's been there. The ability for someone, the DJ culture, the Fatboy Slim, the Chemical Brothers or whatever, DJ Shadow, it's there, It's not a new thing. Wendidoot said, "It's good for all genres of music to challenge, stretch the boundaries, but it doesn't have to." True. I think that's probably what the likes of Mike G are probably trying to get across to me when they talk about Greta Van Fleet. Does all music have to challenge? I think when it challenges you, it becomes more powerful than the sum of its parts. I think you take a Rage Against the Machine or a Nirvana, and they took on the world. When music doesn't challenge you, well, that could probably be a whole subject for another video, my mercenaries. So maybe we'll leave it for another video. Shmutik says, challenging as interesting. Challenging as interesting. No. There's plenty of rock that I find boring. Yes. Maybe that's why you find it boring, Shmutik, because it didn't challenge you. Challenging as demanding? No. So I'm saying, I probably said, does rock need to be challenging? And he's just saying no. And yes, you're right, I suppose, because is the Foo Fighters challenging? No. Nirvana was. Would the Foo Fighters have become one of the biggest rock bands in the world today if Dave Grohl wasn't the drummer of Nirvana? You tell me. I don't know, I made a snort sound then. I'm sort of breathing the wine down now. Robbo Lands Vids said, it's not all bad. Oh, right, he's just responding to my Twitter, my pulling my hair out. Robbo Land, it's not all bad. I had a few responses on Facebook. It's easier to make a longer response there than on the Twitters. I suppose he's right. Wendigoat says, I can't speak on defining exactly what rock is. In terms of mainstream, kind of. You don't hear any rock in the top 40 anymore, but I believe rock albums are still selling well. Last year, The National's Sleep Well Beast and LCD sound systems. American Dream sold fantastically. Oh, interesting, all right. Okay. I think finally, because I think we need to wrap this up. Finally, just to put it out there, when we say rock is dead, are we really saying the album is dead? Because, never start a sentence with because, but I'm doing it anyway. Because aren't great rock bands associated with great albums more than great pop bands are associated with great albums? Now, I'm not sure if I'm right on that. I'm gonna say it, but am I right? Am I right? Or am I just leaping to huge conclusions there? Not sure. Not sure. I will just say thank you to these guys. Thank you all. Video coming soon. Okay. I admit this has been a very strange attempt at having some kind of live element, but I just pardon me, I just enjoy the edit, my mercenaries. Wendy Doot is going to have the final verdict. He is typing, he's currently typing, and he's going to respond to my question that maybe we're talking about the album being dead. And I think, given that I've been buying MGMT, Tim Impala, King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, it's a tricky one because it's still sealed, my mercenaries, still sealed, but this isn't rock. But I've told you before, one of my favourite albums of all time, up there in the top 10, top 5, Doctor Gynecologist, and I had to have this one. This is the true follow-up to it, the sequel. Yet to listen to it. I have the feeling it'll be a worldwide block when I do. But maybe I'm answering my own question because, you know, there are some great hip-hop albums, aren't there? Think like Kanye West. Don't really know his stuff, but he had that Life of Pablo and My Dark, Twisted, Beautiful, Amazing Fantasy. I think Kanye West thinks he's a prophet for modern youth and modern times. I think maybe he should just wind his neck in. What do you think, my mercenaries? Anyway, Wendy Doot's final say for this video was, I don't know. Thank you. Thank you for that one. Thank you for I don't know. And Schmootic and Schmootic's currently typing, and it'll be something disagreeing with me because he always does. I think Podrick's just got one final. Podrick can have the final word. Look, hang on. He replied, and somehow I didn't even notice he'd replied. Brilliant. So let's just we'll wrap it up with Schmootic and Wendy Doot's last things, and we'll discuss what Podrick just said. So he says, I know, you're probably referring to Marilyn Manson. Don't know, am I? I don't know. Evan said, where can I tune in? Is there a Facebook or YouTube live video up right now? No. Do you know what I meant to do while I was filming this? I meant to do a live Facebook thing as I was recording, but I forgot to do that. Never mind. We might do that last time. We might do that next time. Podrick says, no, a lot of it has always been shit, but it isn't any better now, and I don't like the heavy rock metal from here on, in very general terms. Better live than dead, I suppose. I really liked a lot of the hair metal. I liked Skid Row. I liked all that. It was alright. And well, Mr. Floyd and I disagree on pretty much everything, but I like that. Schmootic, everything that was alive is dead, and everything that lives will die. To me, the answer depends on what do we mean by dead. I think I might be too drunk to think about that for the minute. Wendido. To a certain extent, I suppose, but again, this is all according to the mainstream. What people are chatting about in terms of rock being dead is all according to the mainstream, yes, which I think is all very surface level. I don't know, it's careers, isn't it? It's careers. It's money. It's all about money. What we've kind of haven't mentioned that, but it's all about money. And if people aren't making money anymore, then it's hard for them to survive. So where's the money being made? Is the money being made by Taylor Swift and the bands and artists that I've never heard of? Is that where the money's being made? Ed Sheeran. He's making a lot of money. But he plays a guitar. And he's very accomplished. And his use of the looper pedal is absolutely phenomenal. Groundbreaking. In fact, fuck it, I'd call Ed Sheeran rock. I'd call Fleetwood Mac rock. It's that line we spoke about an hour ago, but that line between pop and rock, my mercenaries. It's a fine line, and I don't think we ever did establish where exactly that line is drawn in the sand, my mercenaries. If you're a devout music fan like me, I couldn't care less about what the mainstream is saying about Rock All the album being dead. I just want to listen to good music. I felt like that as a teenager. People were against me. They laughed at me. They mocked me for listening to Iron Maiden and Motorhead. And I think it's better today. But I'm not a teenager anymore. Maybe it's that I don't give a shit anymore. Maybe the youth of today still feel slighted and like outcasts. I don't know. That's not to say mainstream music can't be good. The thing is about, when you talk about mainstream music, what you want to understand is that the people who say rock is dead, they're pointing out that they're saying that mainstream music was rock. Mainstream music was Elvis, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. That's what it was. And they're saying the mainstream today is Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran and Kanye West. I just think analysis like this can be pretty basic talking from mainstream journalism when they don't have the full picture of the state of rock music. Live venues are dying. No one's buying albums anymore. The public are listening to rappers and electronic music. I don't think it's a push to suggest that rock is dead. I just don't know if I agree. I don't disagree. I'm not sure we've cleared this up at all. Schmootic, if we're talking dead as not very popular, I have to say I couldn't care less about that deadness. I can listen to then switch to Gangnam Style and have the same amount of fun during the whole process. That's true. That's true, and I kind of feel like that. I used to be mocked in the early noughties now when I was like gigging at my height. I'd be listening to the Hives and the Strokes. I mean, This Is It was... oh God, I'm too much wine. Is This It? Well, This Is It. Is This It? This Is It. Fantastic album. But I also had in the car, driving to band practices, I also had Christina Aguilera's album, I had Pink, and I had Britney Spears. And people would kind of mock me for that. But I'd always say to them, stop closing your mind off. Listen to the songs. Songwriting is a skill, my mercenaries, and some of the pop songwriters have really got it down pat. So if rock's dying, maybe rock needs to take a leaf out of pop's book, in which case we need to work out what the hell pop is. Oh, blimey. I'm just trying to wrap this up now and people are replying to me. Michael Quinlan, rocks have always been dead, inanimate. It's good. I appreciate, as much as the next person, a little bit of witty banter. I think, right, I think we touched upon a variety of subjects there, my mercenaries. I would like you guys in the comments section to answer those questions, and I think we come up with a few there. Is rock dead? Is the album dead? Is there too much music? What's the difference between rock and pop? And is anything really different today than it was in your youth with regards to people around you listening to rock or not listening to rock? Thank you, my Mercurial mercenaries. This was an oddity of a video, I admit, and I might try and do more stuff like this, or if this is a complete failure, which it might be, I'll never do it again. Thank you! Thank you. Thank you. Like I say, there might not be any videos for a while, because life just gets in the way. Thank you very much, my mercenaries. Over and